Welcome, my friend. I'm Cassian, and this is Chronicles of the Warmaster. Here, we tell the whole Horus Heresy saga slowly, book by book. This is episode 15, and every earlier episode is waiting on the channel if you're catching up. Tonight, a forbidden word-bearer's super warship slips from its hidden dock, and 4 warriors from bitterly divided legions choose to hunt it into the void. The word-bearers have built a warship that can kill an entire world, and this is the night it sails to prove it. She's the Furious Abyss, hidden in a black dock for years, and behind her golden doors is a ledger, a percentage that stands for a slaughtered world. Only 4 Astartes, from 4 legions that despise each other, have any idea she's real. Tonight, a single warship leaves a hidden dock, and 4 warriors who answer to no one decide to follow it into the dark. Picture a shipyard hung in the deep void off Jupiter, inside the Emperor's own home system, the last place anyone would think to look. Gantries and dry dock cradles drift in slow silence, and among them sit the ordinary things of the Great Crusade: cargo barges, fuel tenders, the patient machinery of conquest. The Great Crusade, if you are new to this, the 2-century war in which humanity, under the Emperor, reclaimed 1 million worlds. This is its quietest corner. Nothing here should make your breath catch. And then one hull moves. Not a barge, not a tender. A thing the length of a city, 3 times the size of any cruiser the Imperium has sanctioned, larger than a battleship has any right to be. Her flanks are studded with laser batteries the length of cathedrals. At her prow rises a statue, an enormous golden book, open to the void. Remember her shape, you will want to. Her engines light. The wash hammers across the dry dock, and the gantries that built her shudder and recoil from her like men flinching from a fire. She does not appear on any fleet manifest. She is not supposed to exist. She burns out of the system, and her course points like a blade at the heart of a world I will name for you soon enough. So, where are we, and why does one ship leaving port matter enough to chase across the galaxy? We're in the early days of the Great Wound, the moment the Imperium's civil war has begun, and almost no one knows it yet. The Warmaster Horus, the Emperor's first and most beloved son, has turned against his father. But that secret is held tight, far away, behind a curtain of silence. Out here on the Crusade's edge, brothers still salute brothers across hangar bays. Compliance fleets still move on schedule. The galaxy still looks whole. The ship you just watched leave dock belongs to the Word-Bearers, the 17th Legion, the most devout of all the Emperor's sons, the ones who built their entire being around faith. They are not the loud face of the betrayal. They are something worse. They are its architects, working in the dark for decades, building things in secret with the help of corrupted priests of the Mechanicum. This is not a battle, not yet. This is a discovery, and the men about to make it have no orders, no warning, and no idea how far the rot has already spread. Let me bring you to a man at a basin of water. His name is Motep, fleet captain of the 1,000 Sons, the 15th Legion, sons of the Primarch Magnus, the most gifted psychers humanity ever produced. A Primarch, if the word is new to you, is one of the 18 known demigod warlords the Emperor crafted to lead his legions. Motep is bald, dark-skinned, unscarred, where other Astartes are maps of old wounds. Astartes, the transhuman warriors we call Space Marines. He has a quiet, aloof way about him, and eyes that seem to look straight through a man's armor into whatever he is hiding underneath. His aged servant comes to him, a blind old man named Caltha, who has served him for over 50 years and still does not understand half of what his master says. The ship has docked at a station called Vangelis, and Caltha asks the obvious thing. Why stop here when their road was meant to end at Prospero, the 1,000 Sons' homeworld? Motep only smiles and says the paths of fate are strange ones. Then he takes a small sigil-carved wand from his sleeve, walks a careful winding route across the floor, and locks it away inside a gilded vessel shaped like a coffin. Hold on to that little wand. It matters more than anyone aboard yet knows. Now to the men who will do the chasing. In a grey muster hall on Vangelis Station, beneath a great tapestry of the Emperor reaching down to take the hand of the kneeling Primarch, Robut Guilliman, a captain waits at a table marked with a single curving U. His name is Lysimachus Cestus, captain of the Ultramarines, the 13th Legion, Guilliman's sons, the largest and most disciplined force in the Imperium. Cestus is measured by the book. A captain who reads, who reasons, who weighs a thing before he swings at it. He has called this gathering, and only 3 answered. The first is Motep, the Thousand Son, courteous, calm, unbothered by the hostility around him. The second is a space wolf, Bringar Sturmdreng, a wolf guard of the 6th Legion, sons of Leman Russ. Bringar is broad and grey-maned, with one ruined milk-white eye and fangs he shows when he is displeased. He is displeased almost constantly, and most of all by the sorcerer sharing his air. The third is the one to watch. Skrala, a world-eater of the 12th Legion, sons of the gladiator Primarch Angron. His armour is battered, Mark V plate, blue and white, held together with spikes and field welds and replacement parts, every plate a record of a fight survived. His face is a crosshatch of scar tissue, a thick vein throbs across his brow, and beneath his right eye runs a nervous, ceaseless twitch. The World-Eaters carry nails buried in their skulls that feed them rage. Skrull looks one wrong word away from killing someone, and he probably is. 4 legions, 4 men who do not like one another. They are about to need one another more than any of them would willingly admit. Cestus lays out what he knows, and it is thin. An ultramarine ship, the Eth Fist of Macraggoch, carrying 5 companies of his brothers toward the Calth system, was due to collect his squad from Vangelis. It never arrived. An astropathic distress signal came through so violent it nearly wrecked the station's control hub. Astropaths being the psychic relays the Imperium uses to send messages across the stars. Then nothing. The ship was simply gone. What Cestus does not share, what he holds behind his teeth, is something he saw in the flare of a reactor core back at the station. A vision, the clenched fist and laurel of his own legion. A golden book he could not place, and his homeworld, Macragge, drowning in a feeling he can only call despair. He says none of this. Visions are the province of witchcraft, and an ultramarine who admits to seeing them is an ultramarine whose judgment will be questioned. So he reasons instead. Vangelis sits ahead of the place the CS Fister died, along the road it would have taken to Calth. If they move now, they might catch the trail of whatever killed it. It is not logic that drives him, and he knows it. It is the thing he saw in the fire. The others are unconvinced, and so Cestus does something a captain of his pride should never have to do. He pushes back his chair and he kneels. He does not need their aid, he says, but he asks for it, humbly. And one by one they answer. Bringar lays his rune-axe Felltooth on the table. The sons of Russ do not refuse an honor debt. Skrull sets his chain-axe beside it. The fury of the World-Eaters is yours. And last, after a long weighing silence, Motep lays down his gilded scimitar and offers his ship. The wolves of Fenris do not turn from a debt unpaid. Where you go, Captain, we follow, and may the prey run fast. Bringar wants to know why his greatest opponent in the room has just volunteered. Motep answers with a thin courtesy that after Nicaea, his legion is eager to mend ties with its brothers. We will come back to Nicaea. For now, just mark the word. It is a wound, and the word-bearers already know exactly where it is. They need a ship. They take one. Her name is the Wrathful, and she belongs to the Saturnine Fleet, an old void navy that carved out its kingdom among the rings of Saturn long before the Crusade. and signed its treaty with the Emperor of its own free will. Her bridge looks less like a warship and more like a naval academy. Dark wood map tables, glass-fronted bookcases, a ring of 9 view screens that fold down from the ceiling. She is the fastest vessel in the whole Segmentum Solar, and her crew wear their breeding like a second uniform. And she comes with Rear Admiral Kaminska. Kaminska is a stern matriarch of the void, strong jaw, high collar, a monocle masking a savage scar down one side of her face, a chain of tiny silver skulls pinned to her breast. She came to Vangelis to rest, repair, take on new crew. Instead, an Astartes walked onto her bridge, invoked the authority of the Emperor of Mankind, and took her ship for a hunt built on a hunch. She cannot refuse. She makes very sure he knows how little she thinks of it. 2 more ships join them. The S. Boundless, an old battle-scarred carrier under the jowly, fur-clad Captain Vorlov, a man whose star has faded but who refuses to rot in dock. And 4 small escort frigates, the Fearless, the Ferox, the Ferocis, the Ferocious, and the Fireblade. Plus Motep's own sleek dart of red and gold, the Third Enning Moon. Barely 50 Astartes between them all told. Cestus brings his honor guard, Bringar brings 20 raucous blood claws. Skral brings 20 world eaters, who treat the training decks like a coliseum. Motep brings no Astartes at all, only his ship and its mortal regiments. 50 warriors and a handful of hulls, chasing a ghost. Kaminska sets her course down the Tertiary Core Transit, the most stable warp road from the heart of the Imperium toward Ultramar and Calth, and lights the engines. They find the grave first. At the coordinates Cestus gave them, there is no wreck. Space rarely leaves a body. There is only a faint energy trail, the last cooling breath of plasma engines. The Wrathful's principal navigator, Orcadus, reads it and goes quiet in a way that navigators rarely do. Whatever left this wake, he says, was gargantuan. Massive, beyond anything that should be moving through this region. Justice says one word, follow, and they do. Now, let me bring you aboard the thing they are chasing, because you need to understand what kind of men crew her. In a stone cathedral built into the heart of that monstrous ship, a word-bearer named Zadkiel preaches from a black pulpit to 50 kneeling novices. This is the captain, the admiral of this furious abyss, and what he preaches is forbidden in every word of it. The floor is tiled with scripture. There is an altar. There is faith, open and hungry, the exact thing the emperor outlawed in his legions. Idolatry, worship, a god where the Imperium permits only reason. His sermon is about brotherhood. But listen to what he means by it. Brotherhood, he says, is power, and the deepest power of all is the hatred that lives between brothers, because no rival fights harder than the one who shares your blood. A bold young novice named Ultis presses him. Is this brotherhood then, or just hate? Both, Zadkiel answers, 2 wings of the same eagle. The Emperor, he sneers, is brother to no one, a god hiding in a dungeon on Terra while clerks run his empire. A crewman interrupts to report a fleet on their tail, 2 cruisers, an escort squadron, an Astartes strike vessel, smaller, faster. Gaining. The crewman asks if they should run for the warp before they are caught. Zadkiel thinks, and refuses. Maintain course. He is not afraid. He wants to be caught. He wants to be caught. When the cathedral empties, he lights a candle on the altar for the soul of Robut Gwilima, a Primarch who is not yet dead. He intends to remedy that. And he marks the ambitious young Ultis as a tool to be used and then discarded. Back aboard the Wrathful, 2 of Skrul's World Eaters are trying to kill each other for sport. It is ritual combat, no insult, no quarrel, just 2 of Angron's sons in a marble dueling pit, stripped to the waist, chain axes screaming. The drain at the center already clogging with their own blood. Cestus and his brother Antigus watch from above. Antigus is uneasy. The World Eaters are savages, he says. butchers. Cestus pushes back. Are the space wolves not savages too? Antiges allows it, but draws a line. The wolves have a noble spirit. Angron's sons kill for the joy of it. Cestus will not have it. They are all warriors, he says. They are all brothers. The moment a legion abandons solidarity for its own pride is the moment brotherhood breaks. He believes this with his whole heart. Hold that line in your memory. The moment we abandon solidarity for pride, brotherhood shatters because the galaxy is about to drive it through his chest like a blade. Then Antiges asks what is really troubling him, and Cestus quietly, finally shares it. The clenched fist and laurel, the golden book he cannot name. And then he looks his brother in the eye and says the rest. I saw Macragge, and I felt despair. Before Antiges can answer, a third brother, Saphrax, arrives from the bridge. They have made visual contact with the killer of the Eth Fist of Macragge. They reach the bridge, and they stop. On the view screen sits the largest ship Cestus has ever seen, 3 times the Wrathful's size, a thing that would dwarf an Emperor-class battleship, Mechanicum made, and bedecked, unmistakably, in the iconography of the word-bearers. At its prow stands the monolithic golden statue, an open book, the very shape Cestus glimpsed in that reactor flare. Here is the thing you must feel in this moment. Cestus does not want it to be true. These are his brothers. A ship of the 17th Legion could not have murdered 5 companies of Ultramarines. The idea is unthinkable, so his mind reaches for any other answer. Their vox is broken. There is some mistake. He holds the fleet back. He will not rattle his sword without cause. He hails them by name, in the name of the Emperor. Silence answers. He hails again. More silence. Bringar prowls the bridge and growls that the whole thing stinks and his nose never lies. Cestus sends a single frigate, the Shareless, to make a careful approach. He does not want to come in heavy and be mistaken for a threat. Motep, watching from his own ship, moves the waning moon in behind it, a half-regiment of Prospero spire guards standing ready to board. He is still hoping. They are all still hoping. Hold that hope in your mind, it is about to die. Aboard the S-Furious Abyss, Zadkiel sits on his throne and savors it. He opens a secret channel to Motep alone. He recognizes the waning moon, Magnus's brood, he says with mock admiration, and then he goes to work on the wound. Great deeds are unfolding, he murmurs. Lines are being drawn, flame is coming, and everyone on the wrong side of the line will burn. He reminds Motep that the word-bearers have always stood with Magnus, that the censure at Nicaea was an injustice. Lorgar and Magnus are brothers. So are we. Which side of the line will you stand on? P. Motep does not even pause. Prepare to be boarded. The channel goes dead. Zadkiel says one word to his ordnance master. Fire. The laser batteries find the little frigate fearless first. She breaks apart in a silent bloom of fire, her own air feeding the inferno, and in seconds she is a blackened ruin. Then the torpedoes reach the veiling, mooning moon. On the Wrathful's bridge, Cestus watches the peerless fearless die and cannot make himself believe it. The unthinkable just happened in front of his eyes. Brother fired on brother. And the words he spoke an hour ago on the training deck about solidarity, about the bonds between legions, turn to ash in his mouth. Motep does not run, he turns to fight. The torpedoes that strike the waning moon are no ordinary weapons. Their casings split inside her hull and bore deeper, drilling through her armor on screaming metal teeth before they detonate in her belly. Her gun decks become a furnace. Her master gunner is decapitated in the first instant. Ratings and laborers die by the hundreds, burned alive, drowned in fire that races along the corridors looking for air to eat. Motep gives the only order left, engage. Cestus, on the Wrathful, gives his own, his voice grim as iron, engage and destroy. Send word to Macragge. Send word to Terra. The sons of Lorgar will answer for this. Kaminska, all cold professionalism over a churning stomach, brings her ship to battle and sends the S-Boundless and the escorts in a coordinated assault. Lancers, broadsides, attack craft. No single ship, however vast, can survive a concentrated strike from all sides. That is the doctrine. That is what should be true. The Furious Abyss is about to teach them how little doctrine matters. The Boundless launches her fighter wings, the finest small craft pilots this side of the galaxy. They sweep in toward the battleship's hull, lock their targeting cogitators, and prepare to gut her turrets. And then they begin to die from the inside. In one fighter, a weapons officer named Cell stands, draws her pistol, and shoots her own pilot in the face. It is written, she says, and kills the co-pilot too, and walks below to finish her work. It happens everywhere at once. Across the whole wing, trusted crew turn on one another, barricading themselves in cockpits, venting air, opening fire on their own ships. Captain Vorlov listens, helpless, as his pilots' voices flood the Vox, men gone mad mid-flight, ranting the same poisonous scripture, killing the people beside them. I am the light that shines always. I am the Word. He aborts the run. There is nothing else to do. The greatest pilots in the Saturnine fleet have destroyed themselves without the enemy firing a single shot. How? Deep in the lower decks of the Furious Abyss, in a hot chemical-soaked chamber, kneel 16 creatures the word-bearers call supplicants, psychers. Their skulls swollen and deformed to hold their monstrous brains, wired into life support, kept comatose, used as weapons. A chaplain named Ichthalon drove them to assault the Imperial pilots' mines. 3 of them burned out and died doing it. Zadkiel calls it a worthy sacrifice. The weakest were winnowed away. To him, that is simply good husbandry. The waning moon rolls grandly to bring her broadsides to bear. She is wounded, bleeding fire from her prow, but she fights, point blank, by the glacial standards of void war, her cannon hammering craters into the giant's armor. The escorts make their runs. The Fireblade and her sisters stitch lance fire down the battleship's spine. For a moment, it almost looks like a fight. And then the golden book at the battleship's prow cracks open. The 2 halves of that enormous statue fold outward like the pages of a tome, and from behind them emerges the muzzle of a gun. Reactors at the ship's stern dump their power forward. The barrel glows red, then white, blue flame licking across the ruined prow as the weapon drinks. This is a plasma lance, a weapon Cestus did not know had ever been built, let alone mounted on a warship. A direct fire annihilator for ship-to-ship murder. It fires. A white beam leaps the void and tears across the 6 waning moon, just 4 of her engines, vaporizing metal into a billowing silver cloud. The beam walks along her hull, and where it passes, she comes apart. The rear third of Motep's ship shears clean away. I want to slow down here, because this is one man's death, made into the death of thousands. The waning moon is gutted. Her spine is broken. Her own movement is tearing her in half. The blast doors of her bridge buckle shut, and Motep draws his scimitar and simply cuts through them. He moves through a dying ship toward the savior pods, and everywhere he passes the dead. Crew flash burned in their seats. The wave of fire roars down a corridor and breaks against his armor. The man beside him, his helmsmate Ramket, has no such armor and burns where he stands. He passes a triage ward where the wounded still lie strapped to their beds, abandoned. Ship's regulations make no room for the helpless when a vessel is dying. He passes crew quarters where men and women are running nowhere, and even in their terror they step aside for him, because an Astartes is worth more than any of them, and they all know it. Then a whole section of the ship rips free. The air shrieks out into the void, and a dozen souls go with it, flung against torn deck plating, hurled into the black, their eyes freezing over even as their mouths open to scream. Motep holds on, his armored fingers crushing dents into the metal, and watches them die in silence. He feels, the way his legion was trained to feel, only what serves a purpose, a grim certainty. Every one of them would have given their life for Magnus anyway. It does not make the corridor any quieter. He makes one detour, back to his sanctum, which still holds power on its own protected systems, to recover the little sigil wand from its coffin and seal it into his armor. And there he finds his old servant Calamar, pinned and dying under a fallen cabinet, glass through his body, blood at his lips. For the glory of Magnus, the old man breathes. Motep kneels. He grants the only mercy left, a single shot and a clean end for 50 years of faithful service. He reaches a savior pod and launches. As it spirals away, he watches the waning Munau die above him, the proud red and gold dart of Prospero collapsing into its own bones. He had seen, before all this, a vision of himself standing on the bridge of the Wrathful. This is fate's hand, drawing him there. And under the discipline of his cold and ordered mind, one feeling refuses to be subdued. He wants, very badly, to tear the scurrious abyss apart with his bare hands. While the waning moon dies, the escorts learn a second impossible truth. A ship that mounts a plasma lance like that should have no room for fighters. Every plan the escort captains made assumed it. So when launch bays open like steel gills down the battleship's flanks and Crimson Wing fighters pour out in their hundreds, the S-Ferocious and the S-Ferocious are caught with no answer. The little frigates are fast, but there are 50 fighters for every turret. The S-Ferox takes a reactor hit and dies in the void. The enemy craft hunt down even her savior pods. The F-Ferocious tries a desperate turn back toward the giant, strays into its ventral guns, and is gutted. 2 more crews gone. Then the battleship turns its eye to the owled Boundless. A second wave of torpedoes corkscrews out, tight as a hunting pack. High explosive heads burn through the shields. Bore headers chew into her flank. Magnetic pulse warheads blind her sensors. And a final salvo fires exotic metal slugs at impossible speed, lances of solid matter that punch clean through the carrier and out the far side, leaving her transfixed and trailing fire. The ES Furious Abyss takes its position, pauses as if to admire its work, and opens the golden book again. The plasma lance fires into the S-Boundless amidships, drives down into her reactors, and the whole ship glows from within before she bursts apart. Captain Vorlov, Kaminska's old friend, the man who would not let himself rot in dock, is gone with her. There are no survivors. Let me put the ledger in front of you, because Cestus is looking at it too. The S Fearless, gone. The S Ferox and the S Ferocious, gone. The S Ferocious, gone, broken in half. The S Boundless and Vorlov, gone with every soul aboard. In a little over an hour, the patrol that set out to chase a ghost has been all but annihilated by a single vessel, and that vessel has barely been inconvenienced. On its bridge, Zadkiel watches the Spoundless flicker into darkness and says only, "So it is written." Cestus tries to send the warning that matters most, to Macraggy, to Terra. The Emperor must know, the Legion must know. He orders his chief astropath, Heth, to keep trying, and Heth answers with the worst news of the day. Every attempt has failed. Not blocked, failed. Because the Astronomicon, the great psychic beacon at Terra that all warp travel depends upon, the Emperor's own light cast across the galaxy, is gone. Dark. Warp storms are rising, and no message will reach anyone. So they cannot warn anyone. They can only chase. Antiges argues for retreat, go back, raise the alarm, send a message later. Cestus refuses. A message would never arrive in time. They are the Legion's last hope. Courage and honor, he says, and Antiges, ashamed of his own caution, lays a hand on his captain's shoulder and answers in kind. courage, and honor. The Furious Abyss slips into the warp. The Wrathful and the surviving escort, the Fireblade, dive in after her. But the word-bearers leave one last gift in their wake. From the ordnance bay of the battleship tumbles a thing called a psionic mine, and within its core are more screaming psychers sealed in, poisoned, driven mad. Their combined death cry is the weapon. It detonates, and the warp itself buckles. The stable road they all travelled, the tertiary core transit, collapses behind them like a tunnel caving in. Now understand what that means. The warp is not space. It is another dimension, a sea of raw emotion and madness where the rules of reality do not hold, and only a navigator's mutant third eye can find a path through without losing his mind. To sail it through a stable route is dangerous. To sail it through a route that has just collapsed with the Astronomicon dark and no beacon to steer by, that is very close to suicide. And the Wrathful is doing it anyway. They pull a survivor out of the wreckage first, a savior pod with Motek inside it, alive. Cestus has him brought aboard and calls a council of war. It is a small room with too many Astartes in it, and the air is barbed. Bringar and Skral want to board the battleship the moment they leave the warp, gut it from within. Motep, the one who actually fought the thing, counsels patience. Their torpedoes will be shot down, and no one knows what waits inside that hull. Wait, he says, until the Furious Abyss goes vulnerable. Bringar sneers that it is just like a son of Magnus to preach caution. Skrael agrees with the wolf, better to die attacking than wait in the dark. Cestus cuts through it. Whatever the rest of the 17th Legion is, this ship has turned traitor. The mechanicum that built her is complicit, and that points to something vast and hidden. A war already underway that the Imperium has not even named. They will not throw their lives away. They will follow and strike when the giant is weak and find out how deep the rot goes. The Warmaster must learn what enemies surround him. Bringar grumbles that it still smells like cowardice, but he sits. And then the room shudders, and Motep looks up from the table and says quietly that their passage through the warp has been broken. Cestus goes to the navigator's sanctum to learn how bad it is. Orcadus rises from his blister pod, grey and sweating, struggling to breathe outside the warp trance. The tertiary core transit is down, he says, collapsed by some kind of psionic mine, just as he was guiding them onto it. They are too far in to turn back. They are sailing what he calls the naked abyss, with no beacon, no road. He can use the enemy battleship itself as a point of reference, a beacon to follow, but he can promise nothing about the warp. If the abyss decides to devour them, that is out of his hands. And he leaves them with one more thing. There are creatures abroad in the abyss, the native things of the warp. A shoal of them is following the Furious Abyss. The waters around that ship are in tumult, the way they have been across the whole warp these last several months. It does not bode well. On the walk back, Kaminska finally lets her anger show. He took her ship, threw away her comrades on a hunch, and Cestus, to his great credit, does not pull rank. He admits she was right. He has repaid her courage with scorn, and that is not fitting for a son of the Legion. He offers a humble apology. It lands. For the first time, something between them thaws. Then the ghost arrives. Down in the aft decks, the Wrathful's officer of the watch, a hard man named Huntsman, is patrolling the locked-down corridors with 3 armsmen, hunting for any sign of warp madness among the crew, with a pistol that he calls the cure for every kind of it. He glimpses a figure ahead in deck crew fatigues, the wrong colours, the colours of the Fireblade, the escort still flying somewhere outside in the warp. He challenges it. It will not answer. He calls the bridge. A deckhand from the Blade, he reports. And the answer that comes back turns his blood to ice. That is impossible, because the Fireblade only just docked with us. The figure turns. The lamplight cannot touch a band of shadow across its eyes, but Huntsman sees the mouth well enough, a wide, gashing smile of rotten lips and dozens of needle teeth. fingers stretching into bloody talons, eyes flashing red. He fires. It is not enough. Here is what happened. The real Fireblade, lost in the collapse, was consumed by the warp, her crew's souls devoured, their forms worn like masks. And a warp predator wearing her hull has come alongside the Wrathful, hailing in a dead captain's voice, asking to dock for repairs. Kaminska, hearing a friend she thought lost, let it in. The thing aboard the corridors is only the first of them. The death screams of hundreds of men begin to keen through the hull. The Astartes converge on the primary dock and they walk into a slaughterhouse. The crew of the Wrathful are being torn apart by things wearing Fireblade uniforms, wide grinning maws, sharp teeth, barbed talons, faces locked in a sadistic glee. They pour endlessly out of the docking ports, and blood swills across the deck like a tide. Skrull goes hunting first, alone, against any order, two chainblades screaming in the narrow metal corridors, lost in a haze of fury so deep he will not remember it afterward. Bringar charges in beside him because no son of Russ will let a madman die first. Felltooth carves the creatures apart, his bolt pistol blasts them to viscera, and when their bodies break, they simply dissolve back into the ether. Easy meat, the old wolf thinks. But for every 3 he kills, 6 more crawl from the ports. He is gene-forged and tireless, and he is, slowly, being pushed back. Then a chunk of the deck 3 decks high is bitten clean out of the ship by unseen jaws, and debris tumbles into the naked warp beyond. Bringar feels something vast and primal stir out in the dark, and feels his own legion's beast rise to answer it, a sudden, terrible urge to tear off his helmet and gorge on flesh. Something is on the dock with them now, something the chainblades cannot touch. This is Motep's moment, the one the channel will cut into a short and put in front of strangers because it is that good. He has fought his way to the docking portals, and through a small silvered mirror at the tip of his sigil wand, he sees the enemy for what it truly is. The Fireblade is not a ship anymore. It is a single living predator. A carapace with tiny black eyes, the bodies of its drowned crew fused beneath a translucent skin, their faces stretched and melted in eternal agony. The tentacles spilling from its maws are tongues, and it has noticed him. It has seen me, he says into the vox, perfectly calm. I cannot hide from it now. He orders the others out, seal the doors, he will stay. And he does the thing his legion was condemned for. He reaches into the gift of Prospero, the psychic power the Council of Nicaea outlawed, the very thing Bringar hates him for. His bolter is useless here. He draws his wand, lengthens it into a staff, and drives his scimitar into its end to make a spear. He speaks words of power in the old tongue of Prospero, and a ring of light burns into the deck. The hieroglyphs on his staff blaze vermilion. Back to the deep dead thing. There is no feast for you here. By the silver towers and the ever-burning eye, be gone. He hurls the spear into the heart of the creature's central maw. A great detonation of light explodes inside it, spectral blood fountains. The reaching tongues wither and burn. And the dying scream of the thing fills the ether, one syllable of Prospero against a horror from beyond reality, and the horror loses. The blast doors grind open, and Motep walks out of a fire no one could have survived. He staggers, drenched in translucent gore, smoke rising from his pitted armor, but alive. Bringar takes a step back as if seeing a ghost. None could have lived through that, he breathes. Cestus lowers his weapon, catches the Thousand Sun as he finally collapses, and holds him. Motep's eyes are black orbs, and a riot of purple veins crawls beneath his skin, slowly fading. As did I, he gasps, meaning, I thought I was dead too, and his helmet falls from his nerveless fingers and clatters to the deck. He saved the ship. Every soul aboard owes him their life, and here is the cruelty of it. That is exactly the problem. Bringar's lip curls. There is only one way a man lives through that, he says. sorcery. The thing that saved them all is the thing forbidden by the Emperor's own decree, and now Cestus has to decide what to do with the brother who broke the law to keep them breathing. This is where I need to explain Nicaea, because everything snapping between these men runs back to it. Nicaea was a council the Emperor called to settle a single dangerous question, whether his legions should use psychic powers at all. Many feared the warp, feared sorcery, feared what it might invite. The judgment came down hard. Sorcery was condemned, the psychers reigned in, and Magnus and his 1,000 sons, who had built their whole legion on those gifts, were censured before all their brothers. To a son of Prospero, Nicaea was a wound and an injustice. To a son of Fenris like Bringar, it was the law, plain and absolute. Motep just broke it in front of everyone. And the word-bearers, remember, have been pressing on exactly that wound from the start. In the medical bay, it boils over. Skral demands to know how Motep lived when 2 of his own world-eaters died in that fight. Motep gives them a careful lie, a loose fuel line, an ignited blast, fire that purged the things. Bringar does not believe a word of it. "Your silver tongue is fat with lies," he snarls, and launches himself at the 1,000 son, bears him to the floor, tries to grind his face into the tiles. Cestus throws his whole weight into Bringar's side and breaks them apart. He puts himself between the wolf and the sorcerer, a short blade at his old friend's throat, and holds it there. "The feral laws of Fenris are not recognized on this ship," he says. "If Motep is to answer charges, it will be at a proper trial, at Cestus's command." Bringar weighs it and backs down and spits the worst thing he can. "You are no brother of mine." And he stalks out. Cestus is not finished with Motep either. He confines him to his quarters until they leave the warp. Motep notes mildly that he could overpower a few armsmen and refuse. "Yes," Cestus answers, "but you will not." And he is right. The word-bearers wanted nothing more than to split these 4 men down the seams of Nicaea. Without firing a shot, they have nearly done it. Now, I have to show you what all this murder is actually for, because Zadkiel has been doing arithmetic. In his private quarters, lit cold by a pick screen, he watches a simulation cycle over and over. A missile strikes a moon-sized body. It explodes. Burning debris rains down onto a nearby world. A ship icon, the Furious Abyss, moves through the debris, and trajectory lines run from it down to the surface of that planet. Beside it scroll Mechanicum calculations and the staged effects of a viral strain on a human body, timed to 90 seconds. The last screen shows the projected casualty rates. Macragge's orbital defenses gutted, its fleet broken, its population 93% dead. The rest, Zadkiel notes, the wider word-bearer's fleet under his Lord Kor fare on will finish. With a single blow, he means to all but erase the Ultramarines' homeworld and the Legion with it. The Furious Abyss is not a warship. She is a planet killer, aimed at the heart of Ultramar, and Cestus's nightmare of a drowning Macragge was not witchery. It was a warning. The damage Motep's ship did was not for nothing, by the way. A lucky lance hit cut the Furious Abyss off from her own fuel reserves and ruptured the coolant line. Zadkiel does not share that failure with his legion. To admit it would be to admit his own arrogance cost them. But it forces a detour to a way station called Bacca Triumviran before he can finish his work at Macragge. He gathers his warriors in the cathedral, the Quillborn, a chapter of true Void Marines bred to fight ship to ship, and feeds them faith. The warp is strange, he says, full of mysteries that will test their minds. Only the word of Lorgar will lead them back to sanity. He needs to reach Corphaeron to report his progress. And he speaks of something else, something his assault captain Belanos cannot say without a tremor, a name. Zoric. It stirs, Zadkiel says. They have only to seal their pact with the warp in blood, and then it will act. You do not have a name yet for the thing that hunts on the word-bearer's behalf. Neither does the Imperium. That is the whole horror of this moment in history. There are no words ready for what is coming, only the slow, dawning understanding that the rules everyone trusted have already broken. Go back to the beginning with me. A single ship breaking dock and a shipyard recoiling from her engine wash like men from a fire. We did not name her then. We just looked. Now you know her name, the S-Furious Abyss. And you know the math hidden behind that golden book, a whole world's worth of the dead written down as a percentage on a cold screen. The patrol that set out to chase a mystery has lost 4 ships, a friend, and very nearly its own unity, and it is still chasing, deeper into a warp that has begun to hunt back. Cestus stood over the bodies on his dock and gave the order to continue, into the abyss. He has understood the truth the others only suspect. They are not chasing a ship into open space. They are chasing it into its own house. The giant is wounded now, and she must stop to lick those wounds. That gives 4 warriors who can barely stand each other one chance, if they can hold together long enough to take it. This is the heresy in miniature, men who hate each other's legions, forced to trust one another or watch a world burn. Next, a single light cruiser stands in the abyss's path, with no fleet behind her, and 4 Astartes, who may be all she has. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this chapter found a place in your thoughts, subscribe, and you'll be here when the next one arrives each week. Leave a like and tell me your favorite moment or your own thoughts in the comments. It helps these old stories find more ears. Until next time, walk wisely and keep the Emperor's light close.